Nasdaq 100 technical analysis, and we're on the weekly chart. And let's recap. Well, on the weekly chart, we have what is a huge, if you guys can see, double bottom over here, which had a neckline at this point. And if you guys recall, we spoke about how, because price had started at this point, we expect the market to actually hit up to complete this structure more or less at that level, which is pretty much in line with where it had started. Another thing that we've spoken about is that recently price gave us this overextended W structure, which has this side as the first leg and this A over here as the second leg of the W structure, and that it has a neckline at that point. And you guys know that whenever we have these, we want to see price actually closing sufficiently above the neckline and then come back to the neckline to give it a test. And where we have that neckline is where we would look for those potential buy opportunities, especially if that neckline, as I always say, guys, aligns with any key numbers that we have in regards to the Fibonacci retracement tool. So at this point in time, given where price is, what we want to see happen next is the market at least coming down to the neckline to give it a test. And as I said, at that point where the neckline is where we would look for those further potential buying opportunities. And ultimately, we want to see price reach these levels over here, right? And that is because we want to see the market actually completing this structure that I spoke about, which is the double bottom, which, as I said, started here more or less, went down, gave us the W, and ideally you want to see the market head up to around that level, right? Anyway, from here, what I'm going to do, guys, is utilize the Fibonacci retracement tool just to see if that neckline actually aligns with any key numbers that we have in regards to the tool, right? And let's have a look, right? And more or less, here we go, and we can see that the neckline of this overextended W structure or double bottom aligns, we could say, with the 23.6% Fibonacci retracement level, more or less. And remember that necklines are areas and not so much lines, right? So if this is my W structure, my neckline is not necessarily here. It's not that line, but rather it is, we could say, a block that we have here, right? And as I said, we want to see price come back to that block, and at that block is where we would look for those potential buy opportunities. So as I said, we can see that we could say more or less that the neckline of this W structure aligns with the 23.6% Fibonacci retracement tool, right? So let me just actually remove this tool, and we have confluence in that. Number one, we have, as I said, this double bottom. Number two, we have price closing sufficiently above the neckline. If it does happen, we would then see the market actually move further down to around this level, and at this level is where we would look for those potential buy opportunities because of those factors that I spoke about, right? Anyway, what else do we see on this chart? On this chart, I don't see much really. So let's head down to the daily chart, and here we are on the daily chart. On the weekly chart, we spoke about how we have this huge structure which has a neckline at that point, and we said we want to see price come back to the neckline to give it a test, and at that point is where we would look for further buy opportunities. But let's just zoom in and see what else is happening in regards to the daily chart. At this point, I don't see much, but we can see that in as far as the daily chart goes, the market has been very strong, guys. The market has been very, very strong, and we are in an upward trajectory. To add to that, as much as the market has been very strong, we can also see that the market is starting to lose some steam at that point where the gradient is no longer as steep like we had here, right? And we're now seeing some fatigue in the market. And what this signals is that we may be getting ready to see the market actually move further down to around more or less where we have the neckline of that huge double bottom that we spoke about. And remember, at this point is where we would look for those potential buy opportunities, because not only is this point the neckline of this W structure, but it is also a very strong level of support, as we had multiple rejections in and around that area, as you guys can see. And in the future we may get another rejection at that point, right? So what else do we see, guys? Let's just zoom in. So another thing that I see in regards to the daily chart is that, remember I said that the market seems to be losing some momentum, right? And what this signals is that we may be getting ready to see a double top of sorts, which would have a neckline at that point, and should price close below this channel, right, as well as this neckline, we would then wait for the market to head back to the neckline to give it a test, and at that point, and especially if it aligns with or rather with any key numbers that we have in regards to the Fibonacci retracement tool, we would then look for those potential sell opportunities, and our take profit would be around this level. Why this level? That is because it is the neckline, as I said, of that W structure that we spoke about on the weekly chart, and at this point is where we would look for those potential buy opportunities, right? So from here, let's just head down to the H4 chart and see what's happening down there. Just bear with me, guys. Let's have a look. And just to recap, guys, remember on the bigger time frames, we spoke about this huge W structure. We spoke about how this is a good level to look for potential buy opportunities, and we know that the neckline of this W structure aligns with a key number that we have on the Fibonacci retracement tool. So should price from this level come down to this level, at this level again is where we would look for those potential buy opportunities. But let's just zoom in and see what else is happening, right? Another thing that we spoke about on the daily chart is that we said the market at this point in time seems to be losing some steam, and that is because we can see that this angle, right, is no longer as steep as we had it, before, right? So this signals that we may potentially see a reversal of sorts. To add to that, I had mentioned that we may potentially see the market give us a double top, which would then have a neckline at that point, and that should price close below this point over here, which is where we have this channel as well as this neckline. We would then wait for the market to head back to that neckline to give it a test, and at this point is where we would look for those potential sell opportunities around this level, and at this level again is where we would look for those buy opportunities, right? But if you were to also look at this area over here, as much as I'm saying that we have what seems to be a double top, just also keep in mind that the area is actually very much choppy, right? And as much as I'm saying that we may have a double top, if you were to pay attention to the very same area, you would see that we have what also seems to be a double bottom, which has a neckline more or less at that point. And at this point is where we may see the market actually move further up, right? So what I'm saying in other words is that be careful, and that as much as I'm saying that the market is showing signs of potentially pushing down, we may potentially see the market actually continue to push further up, because we have this W structure as well, which has a neckline more or less at that point, and at this point where the neckline is, we may see the market move further up. Because if I can just zoom out and actually go back to the weekly chart, remember that ultimately we are in an upward trend, and we may still see the market continue to move further up to around that level to close this huge W structure.